We're grading free agency and grading my haircut. Give it about a 5 out of 10. What is up, Finn fans? Yes, today I feel like this is a good time to grade free agency, being that you watching it on the 26th, I am recording it on the 25th. It's been about a week, a little over a week since free agency started. This is where everything gets quiet. There's still some top-notch free agents out there, Jadeveon Clowney, those names. But I think for the most part, the dust has settled, and now teams are starting to go into free agency mode. So you already know your boy's going into free agency mode. So I thought, let's look at what the Dolphins did in free agency. Let's talk about what they did in free agency. Let's talk about the plan they had for free agency and grade it. A lot of you guys are like, oh, Doug's a homer. He's probably going to give it an A. Well, better watch the video. Before we jump into that, I do have to shout out to new Patreons. I have Shane. I don't want to butcher your last name, but I have to give you the respect of saying it. Less Parents. I'm so sorry. And Ronald Jerome for joining the Patreon. Also, if you guys notice right next to that subscribe button, there's a join button. What the flip is that, dog? Essentially, it's a membership. I now have the membership activated on the YouTube channel. You get special perks. It's kind of like the Patreon, but a little bit different because not only do you get the special perks with the different tiers, but also you get emojis and icons next to your name, especially when I go live. So, you can use special emojis that I'm going to be making specifically for the membership. So if you do want to join, you can just hit that join button. And if you want to join the Patreon, which is a little bit different, that's also linked below. But don't ever feel like you need to do these things. Please don't ever feel pressured to do these things. Oh, Doug will only like me if I do. No. You hit that subscribe button, you hit that like button, you watch the video, you comment below, you call me a dummy, or you say I like what you do. That makes me so happy. That's all I care about. So, and of course, want to shout out my guys at patchvibes.com. Be sure to use the promo code DDW. You get yourself 20% off. So let's talk about what happened this past free agency. I'm going to even throw in a little bit of the tendered players that we talked about. But right as of now, the Miami Dolphins are sitting at 11.497 in cap space. They started at around 32 million, so they spent about 22 million in free agency. They jumped up to 33 after the whole Kyle Van Noy release. But I'm going to talk about every signing, and you would think like, hey, the Dolphins didn't do anything. They did a lot. And then I'm going to talk about some of the players that I wanted, what they went for, and we'll get into it. So this is who the Dolphins tendered. They tendered cornerback Nick Needham, quarterback Jamal Perry, and linebacker Calvin Munson. Essentially what a tender is the Dolphins are going to give them the league veteran minimum, and they're on the Dolphins for a year. They cannot sign anywhere. They can't negotiate anywhere. They were tendered with the team. You are now with the team. Congratulations, you're a Miami Dolphin for 2021. Unless we decide to cut you, then you're not. And the re-signs are linebacker Vince Beagle, linebacker Landon Roberts, and wide receiver Mac Hollins. All three of those re-signings I do like. Some people don't understand the re-signing of Landon Roberts or Mac Hollins, but I do. Landon Roberts was a big thumper. The funny thing is, he had a big hit on Malcolm Brown, the running back that we signed. I'll talk about in 2 seconds. And I think it was the Raiders game. He had another big stop. He's our thumper. He's the guy on 3rd and short, 4th down. He was making the stops that we needed him to. And Mac Hollins is a very solid special teamer, and he had a few touchdowns. He had that nice touchdown fade catch from Tua. I think that was against the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously had the catch in the Oakland Raiders game, but he also should have had the catch for a touchdown in the Oakland Raiders game. But yeah, and then Vince Beagle, he was injured last year, but before that, he was really good outside linebacker play for us on the 2019 season where the Dolphins won 5 games. So those re-signings I did like. Everyone else is gone, went somewhere else. Then we have the free agent signings that we brought in. And I'm going to start with essentially the most expensive to least expensive. So we're going to start with wide receiver Will Fuller. We signed him to a 1-year, $10.6 million contract. He essentially is going to get the whole $10.6 million. Love it. A lot of us wanted Juju, Kenny Golladay, Samuels. I will talk about what they went for and if I'm all right with that. But, Will Fuller, when he's on the field, like I said, he's incredibly dangerous. He's got that speed. He can run the whole entire route tree. So if the Dolphins want to put him on the outside, on the inside, wherever, he can make it happen. So I'm really happy with that. Then they signed fullback / tight end Sethan Carter, 3 years, $7.8 million, 2.7 guaranteed. Special teamer. That's essentially what he's getting paid. He's getting paid $2.7 million guaranteed for 3 years. He's getting paid nothing. He's a big hit, he's a special teamer and he's just a depth guy. Then we have defensive tackle Adam Butler, 2 years, $7.5 million, 3.7 million guaranteed. Another guy, we got him off the Patriots. There's just more depth at that defensive tackle spot, more help there. Then we bring in our backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissette, 1 year, $5 million. I wanted the Dolphins to sign him. If you go back and watch my free agency video, I was talking about, I don't see Fitz coming back. I see him wanting to start somewhere, Washington football team. So I'd like to see them bring in Jacoby Brissette. And they were like, hey, Doug, we watched your video. I'm pretty sure they didn't watch my video. And we'll bring him in for $5 million. And I was like, fantastic. Thank you, Miami, for that. They bring in cornerback Justin Coleman, 1 year, $2.7 million. He will compete win the slot position with Nick Needham, with Noah Benogany, and with himself, obviously. Then we bring in center Matt Skura, 1 year, $1.7 million. I'll talk about the other guys that the Dolphins could have got. This center position, he has really high rankings when it comes to win rate and run blocking and pass blocking. He did have, an injury that he was coming off of and a few snapping issues. We'll see how that all pans out. They bring in running back Malcolm Brown, who I talked about before, that Landon Roberts put him on his butt in the backfield. 1 year, $1.7 million. He's just a short yardage, big back. They're paying him $1.7 million for 1 year. I'm not thinking it's anything crazy other than that. They bring in punter Michael Pilardi, 1 year, $1.4 million. They let Matt Hawk go. He's with the Buffalo Bills. Why would you go to Buffalo? But he was injured. So I don't understand this one. Outside linebacker Brendan Scarlett, 1 year, $1.1 million. The more I'm watching film on him, the more I understand why they brought him in. Extremely versatile guy in the linebacker position. Then we bring in outside linebacker Duke Riley, 1 year, $1.1 million. Another guy who's just going to be depth in that linebacker core. And finally, the speedster, the roadrunner, wide receiver Robert Foster, 1 year contract. I don't know how much to this day. I'm leaving on Spot Track, and I don't know how much he's getting. But in a nutshell, they signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 free agents for roughly about $20 million. There's a lot of $1 million contracts on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 $1 million contracts. A ton of 1 year contracts. Why is there so many 1 year contracts, Doug? That's because next year, the Dolphins are going to have about $70 million in cap space. Next year, the cap is probably going to go up by about $20 million. Juju Smith-Schuster signed a 1 year, I think it was $8 million contract with the Steelers. Why did he sign that? Well, he went back to go to the Steelers. Familiarity. Let's stick with it. But he knows next year is where he can make his money in the free agent market, because next year all these teams are going to have money. Next year there's going to be a lot of free agents. That's why the Dolphins went out and signed all of these guys. And again, there's no big name, big splashy move, and I will talk about that in a second. But they only signed two people, to multiple year contracts. And that's Adam Butler to 2 years and Sethan Carter to 3 years. Other than that, everyone got a 1 year contract. Matt Collins, Landon Roberts, Vince Beagle, the re-signs, and everyone else got a 1 year contract because the Dolphins are building the depth and they're focusing on the draft. Brian Flores literally said it in his press conference. You can't always get what you want. And we all knew that they were coming into this and they were going to be pinching their pennies. They were going to be bargain shopping. So sitting back, looking at what the Dolphins did, looking at who they brought in, and they brought in solid players. You might think, well, these players all suck. Jacoby Brissette, Justin Coleman, Matt Skura, Malcolm Brown, Michael Bellardi. These all suck, except for Will Fuller. They didn't do anything. I disagree a little bit. Some of these guys, I was like, like Michael Bellardi, why wouldn't you just keep Matt Hawk? Then like Matt Skura, and like I said, I'll talk about it in a second. Why? But then I sat back and I thought about it, and the Dolphins are going to build their core. They're going to continue to work on this, and that was their plan from jump. Again, Brian Flores came out and he said, we're not going to be spending big. You can't always get what you want. And he said that because he knew for a fact going to start a free agency, he knew everyone was going to start throwing money. And then Dolphin fans are going to just sit back like, what are we doing? And that's all what Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were. Where it's just Dolphin fans on Twitter losing their minds. Absolutely losing their minds over this. That being said, what do I give the Dolphins free agency grade? Now, I'm not going to grade each signing. I'm just going to clump it into a whole, right? Like I said, there's some in here I like. Jacoby Brissette, Will Fuller, and even like the Adam Butler, bringing that in. Brendan Scarlett, I like. I like the Robert Foster. I like bringing back Vince Beagle, Landon Roberts, Mac Hollins. I give it a C+. I knew they weren't going to go big. I knew they weren't going to go splashy, so that's why I wasn't as mad and why I wasn't as disappointed. But I kind of wish they would have done at least one or two things to really shore it up. Now, granted, they're probably doing something or have something planned that I have no idea about, maybe focusing more on the draft, being that they were the second youngest team in the NFL and still won 10 games. Had the most snaps for the youngest rookies and all that stuff and still won 10 games. So maybe they know more. Maybe they're focusing more on the draft with 4 picks in the top 50. But like you look at Hassan Reddick, who signed a 1-year, $8 million contract, the $6 million guaranteed. Why couldn't they bring in Hassan Reddick? I wanted the Dolphins to bring in Hassan Reddick. But then you look at like Kenny Golladay. Everyone wanted the Dolphins to go after Kenny Golladay. He signed a 4-year, $72 million contract, $28 million guaranteed. No, thank you. He was injured last year. I'm not giving that man that much money if he has the potential to be injured again. I wanted the Dolphins to potentially look at Corey Linsley, but seeing that he got 5 years, $62.5 million, 17 guarantee. Yeah, no. I think that again, after I talk about this, I'll go a little bit more into what I think they were doing. I did want the Dolphins to bring in Carl Lawson. He went to the Jets 3 years, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. And then the other one that I'm like, you bring in Matt Skura, but you could have brought in David Andrews, who the Patriots gave him 4 years, $19 million, only 6.5 guaranteed. I feel like the Dolphins could have done that. I feel like the Dolphins could have brought in Andrews. Here's my thought, right? Because again, I sat back and I was like, David Andrews got 4 years, $19 million, 6.5 guarantee. It's not a lot of money. And you see that they were being conservative with their money, looking forward to next year with free agency. Why didn't you bring in David Andrews? And then it hit me. They probably and there was the rumors out there that, Dolphins and David Andrews, because Ted Karras went back to the Patriots. I feel bad for Ted Karras. He goes back to the Patriots, and then the Patriots bring back David Andrews. It's 2019 all over again for Ted Karras. But it hit me. Dolphins probably want to bring in a veteran at the center position to compete with Dieter and potentially Jesse Davis, right? And they're going to draft a center to be the future of that center position. Or Dieter might step up and be the future. So I think what happened was the Dolphins probably contacted David Andrews, said, look, we're only going to look at signing you for a year, seeing what you can do. And we're looking at draft a center as well. Competition. And he's probably like, well, I'll see what I could do. I'll see what other people, are thinking of paying me yearly and money. I'll get back to you. And then they probably are like, all right. And then Matt Skura was like, yeah, I'll take that to prove that I'm not as bad as I came off to being, blah, blah, blah. And they signed Matt Skura. I honestly think that that's what they're doing. I think the center position, I think they're going to draft one. Now, I'm not going to talk about that too much because I have a whole series of draft videos. You guys, the next month is just draft time, and I'm excited for it. I got all up until, like, I think April 28th or something like that is the draft. You have so many draft videos where I'm going to talk about draft myths and draft that and draft so. That's what I'm thinking. Thinking they had a draft plan. But that being said, I feel like they could have went in a different direction on some of these signings. That's why I gave it like a C plus, a B, right? C plus B with the signings. Will Fuller, like I said, I already said, I'm not going to repeat myself, but I already said what I liked. But I feel like they could have done here and there. I don't like that they didn't address the pass rush. I know outside linebacker in a 3-4 system is considered a pass rush, but I want that hand in the ground pass rusher. I want another Emmanuel Ogbah. You know what I'm saying? They didn't address it yet. Will they address it in the draft? It's not that deep of a position. So we'll see. I do have Charles Harris PTSD with that. But be sure to comment below. What is your grade on free agency? Take into consideration what I said maybe about their plan. We don't know what their plan is. But what is your grade on their free agency? I'm very interested to read that below. And we'll get you guys comment of the day. And this comment comes from John. And John says, is there a position you'd be upset if the Dolphins don't address in rounds 1 or 2? It's an excellent question. And it kind of segues as we slowly make our way into draft month, which I think, like I said, next week, the 29th, is going to start doing draft videos. I'm doing my draft prospect videos. Not really. I think they know where their needs are, and again, that's probably might be the first video I do where positions of needs going into the draft, and I think they understand what they are, because there's some areas they didn't really address in free agency, and if they did address it, it seems like they were stopgap players. Again, Matt Skura, kind of a stopgap player. Malcolm Brown, not even a stopgap player. He's not even, you know what I'm saying? They might really like Myles Gaskin. They might really love the way he played in training camp last year and during the season. Will Fuller, only a 1-year contract, stopgap player. They also have 12 receivers. So not really, right? Say, in the first 4 picks, they address wide receiver, offensive line, running back, defensive line. I'm happy. Or they do offensive line in no specific order. I'm not saying like 318, I'm just saying they address offensive line, running back, defensive line, linebacker. I'm happy. I'm all right with that. It doesn't really matter how they do it. But there's no real position I'd be upset if they don't address in the first 4 picks, because they might trade back from 3 and just get a ton more picks. We might be saying in the top 50, they went from having 4 picks to about 5. So we'll see how this all pans out. But I hope I answered your question. No, there's not really a position I'd be upset if they didn't take, because if they didn't take a wide receiver, I think that there's still a lot of good depth at wide receiver to potentially get in the 3rd round is my whole point. But thank you for the comment. Like I said to you guys, be sure to comment below. Is there a position that you guys think, like John said, that they don't address in the first 4 picks that you'd be upset with? Comment below. Also, be sure to check out Miami Sports Music, fantastic website and YouTube channel with a ton of podcasts. I popped it up. You can see all the different podcasts, me and TD included. So be sure to check them out. Other than that, guys, like I said, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it up, because I have this whole draft month. I have a ton of draft content, not only for this, but we're going to reminisce about old draft picks and a ton of cool stuff. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. Other than that, guys, I'll see you in the next video. But like usual, stay classy. Fins up.